Kamini, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
It's been such a long time since I saw you here in Cape Town. Good to see you.
Indeed, likewise, and one of my favorite cities. You're so blessed to be living there.
I really am. And like I said to you last time, you need to come back for summer. It is cooking and everyone's on the beach and it's just beautiful.
I'll definitely make plans to come, and this time with my family because I absolutely adored Cape Town, and South Africa is outstandingly beautiful. So really excited to see you again in person when when we'll get that chance, and to dive into your story, so our audience can learn more about the wonderful things that you have done. And I want to begin first with what happened in 2013 when you won MasterChef South Africa, and that changed your trajectory overnight. Can you share with us what were the deepest highs and the deepest lows of that competition for you, and how that has shaped who you are today?
MasterChef was definitely a sort of sliding doors moment because my life before that looked completely different. Because years before winning MasterChef South Africa, I had dreamed of being in the food media space and having a TV show and a cookbook. And I auditioned and entered thinking, well, let's put my name in the hat and see what happens. And I think that was an important lesson because sometimes I think before we've even done something, we create this world of fear that makes us not do those things. But unless you put your name in the hat and you put yourself forward, you are stopping yourself from having the opportunity to even be part of this thing that is so great that it's caused such fear in your life. I think the greatest highs. So every MasterChef has got an international destination, and my year went to Ethiopia. And it was the challenge to make the Ethiopian flatbread with teff flour called injera. And I that was my first elimination round. And so elimination rounds are incredibly stressful, and you've got to then cook and prove yourself and get yourself out of that space. And I think what I learned is that I work really well under pressure. And that has served me really well in life because it just means, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think stress and pressure is ever not included in your day to day. It's just about how you're able to manage that. So I think that for me is the sort of the best lesson, the most positive lesson out of MasterChef. A low point? I think it's like anything that's deeply traumatic. People talk about this during childbirth, that they don't remember the agony that they went through during the process because at the end they've got something incredible. I don't think that MasterChef didn't come with any strife, but right now I can't think of anything.
Looking back, what's one definition of success that you held before MasterChef and one that you hold today?
I think before MasterChef, I think being quite young, you associate success with the usual cues of financial success or success that maybe your friends and family and society deem are important, which is that sort of stereotypical married, 2.5 kids, white picket fence. I think now success for me is a lot more holistic because, of course, it includes a financial and family, but it's also about how you invest in your mind and invest in your body for the long term. It's about, are you like spiritually in touch with yourself? And yeah, I just think it's a much more whole proposition than it once was.
And let's dive a little bit more about that because you have recently completed a master's degree that actually brings a more holistic approach to many of the things that you do today. Can you dive deeper into why the holistic dimension is important, and how do you connect the dots between everything that you do, from the food, the well-being, the yoga, the psychology?
I think as human beings, we have the privilege of being multifaceted, and you're never going to be able to support all of those facets of yourself equally all the time. But I think as long as you are aware of them, and I think post winning MasterChef, I was the host and producer on a food travel show called Go Eat World, and I got to do some incredible campaigns as well. But started to ask myself, like, what is the real impact that I'm having on people, on the world, on myself? Because I think after a reality show like MasterChef, it can become a little bit pageanty. In my head, I was sort of thinking you have a giant pair of scissors and you're trying to open restaurants and malls and strange things like that. And I knew from a young age that I'm a lot more grounded, and I wanted real meaning from the thing that I did for a living. And so I studied psychology because I studied health and nutrition coaching prior to that. And there were elements of how your emotions and your psyche drive how you eat and how you move in the world. But it wasn't as in depth and it wasn't as evidence based. And I think that was also a learning for me. I wanted something real. I wanted peer reviewed articles. I wanted people to have gone through like the proper research modalities to give me an answer that is sort of objectively sound in many ways. And so I think now, and I'll be sort of launching this at the end of 2025 into 2026, is about how you use food as the sort of the center point to being able to ground you. So that's in terms of cooking the food and eating the food and sharing the food with people in your community, but then also looking at the nutritional aspects of food and seeing how you can eat with purpose and intention. I think a lot of times people will eat in front of a TV, and I think that's one way you eat in front of the TV. You have a phone, but are you sitting down and chewing properly? Are you tasting? Are you getting engaged with the textures? And I think all of those things can kind of be the, I don't know, like the daily practice or daily ritual of staying in touch with yourself.
Tell us more about your early days and how your grandmother's cooking has shaped and influenced you. And I want to dive more into, particularly if you can share memories that are connected to identity, to culture, to belonging, beyond the nutritional aspect of food itself. How has that family dimension, if you wish, influenced how you see the world, how you see yourself, and the importance of culture and identity?
To have had two grandmothers that cooked incredibly well. My paternal grandmother passed on a number of years ago, but at as a 40-year-old, to still have a grandmother that is able to cook and just be healthy is a huge blessing. And I remember as a child on a Sunday, it was one of those like all the aunts and uncles and all the children were there to have Sunday lunch, and my grandmothers would be in the kitchen and they would be calling the shots because the person who cooks is the person that's sort of in the lead. I don't really remember exactly what we ate, but it was more about the fact that on a Sunday we all got to be together and share our weeks. And that for me was really powerful. I grew up knowing and understanding that food was sort of the key to unlocking your relationships, and it was the reason why you gathered with your people. And I think with the recipes in the book, there were some recipes that I sat with my grandmother and we cooked them together. And she does not believe in weighing things. She likes to eyeball and make things up as she goes along because she'll taste and then she'll, I don't know, make changes. But it's because like on a cellular level, she knows what it should taste like and then she adjusts along the way. But you can't really write a recipe book with a taste, feel, think, have a look at what's going on. And so I sort of had to sit with her and measure things out. And then I took those things back to my kitchen and then I started playing around with them. But what I found, and it happened really naturally, was that I wasn't cooking exactly the way she was because I have updated equipment. I have knowledge about what are healthier options, staying away from seed oils. We're not frying everything. And maybe there were ways to do things faster, more efficiently, and ultimately like the best home cook. Because in a perfect world, we would get home and cook. Most people don't have 3 hours at the end of a workday to cook a whole meal. And so when I was thinking about the book, it was about making food that was going to deliver on flavor. So the flavor would be familiar, even if the method was new and updated, but things that you could do quickly and with not a lot of grunt work. Because I do believe that being able to cook for yourself means that you get to decide how good that meal is for you and for your family. And I do think that longevity and health span, as we spoke about at Mind Matters, starts with a plate of food, and you can influence that in your life 3 times a day minimally. So you should have complete autonomy and agency to make that the best, most nourishing thing.
your cookbook actually won the Gourmand Award of the best Indian book globally, which is absolutely phenomenal. Did you anticipate this reaction when you first published it? And do you now plan to maybe come with a second book in the market?
I found out a couple of days ago and I was just incredibly hopeful. I don't think it was something that I expected because this is now the global stage. It's the best of the best that submit their cookbooks. And it is so deeply validating, and I'm so honored to be part of that echelon. In terms of a next book, I think I might sort of do another book, but more in line with like holistic wellness. So it would add elements of mindfulness, obviously linked to food, but maybe not another cookbook per se. Because I think in 2025 or whenever you're going to publish this, in our current times, you can find recipes, more recipes than you'll ever be able to cook online. So I don't think it's that people need recipe books because I have countless recipe books and I buy them because I want to know a bit more about the author because I just like the touch and feel of a recipe book. But I don't think I've ever once cooked something out of a book step by step, measurement by measurement. And so I think with that, I would want to kind of do something that is in a more, the word self-help comes to mind, but that sounds a bit clinical, but more like the handbook, which would be the recipe to the better you or something like that.
Beautiful. And you touched upon earlier how you hosted and produced the food travel series Girl Eat World, and you filmed in 10 different cities around the world. What did you discover about the universality of joy?
I think traveling to 10 different countries around the world, the sort of golden thread throughout was that keeping food as simple as possible was where the most joy came from because I love a fresh market and I got to go to fresh markets in Thailand and see things that I'd never seen before. And I think there were a lot of sort of recipes or food ideas in that show that were a throwback to a people and a time that had long passed. And so I think that as much as we move along with technology and with the futuristic forward thinking kind of way of life as people, there's some element of us that is still very grounded and based in flavors of our forefathers. And you see that around the world. I think the other thing that I noticed is that you don't truly understand someone until you taste their food because then you have like a commonality and you can tell so much about the way people eat. As an example, in Italy, we shot in Milan, but Milan was the financial hub. And you get dishes with a Parmesan cheese, with veal, with rice and risotto. And those are all very expensive items or ingredients to cook with. And then in the South, you're getting the pasta and the pizza and the more sort of like peasant food, as they would call it. And so I think now, if you had to look at what a person put on their plate, it would tell a story about where they'd come from, what kind of financial situation, what was available. Was it a time of plenty or scarcity? And that was an incredible thing.
If we talk purely about joy, and if there would be a recipe for joy, what would be the three main ingredients in your view?
Ooh, the recipe for joy. I think it's a three-word sentence instead of three ingredients. And the three words would be everything in moderation. Because I think then you can kind of look, eating a tupper style is my favorite because it means that I get to taste everything. Or even I know in Asia, you've got like a big lazy Susan and you have all the dishes and it spins around and you can taste different things. So I like having many options and tasting everything.
And if you wanted to lift someone's spirit with a meal, would you be more inclined to cook something that would be more salty or more sweet?
It depends who it is. I think food is such a personal like aspect of one's life. And I think everybody that's in food, whether you are a mom cooking for her family, whether you're a chef, whether you're a content creator, you want to please people. So that depends on how well I know someone. Do I know that my best friend blue cheese anything with blue cheese and she would go crazy? So I think getting an understanding of who that person is is the key to being able to make the thing that will fill them with joy.
You have also started running marathons in beautiful Cape Town. Tell us about the mental and the physical preparation that you had to go through to be able to pursue that with joy.
I don't think training for my first marathon had that much joy embedded in it because it's a very hard thing. I was invited to be one of the ambassadors for the Sanlam Cape Town Marathon in 2016, I think it was. And I had run probably about 10 Ks at most prior to that. And when I accepted to be the ambassador for the campaign, I thought, well, you have to run it. And so I worked with a running coach and she got me over the line, which was all that was needed. But by the end of that, I was hooked. I have not stopped running since, and I've run other marathons and many other races since then. And I think running itself is one of my brings me joy moments. I could think of actually one of my friends when I told her about the Gourmand win. She said, "How are we going to celebrate?" I said, "Can we go for a morning run and a cold dip?" So yeah, that was not her thing. She was like, "You do that. We'll do something else more celebratory." It's running is one of those things that brings me a lot of joy, only because I think with that, it's about community. The running community is huge, and it's so great because people are unpretentious or not pretentious, and it's very much about having a goal and working towards it. It means that you sleep a little bit earlier, you eat a little bit better, you get to be out in the morning light. It's the absolute best.
Are there any other cool and beautiful things that you do that very few people know about that we can, there's a lot of information on you publicly, but what can you share with our audience that is very unique to yourself, or a hobby or something you do for fun and purely for the joy of it that very few people know?
I think you have sort of seen that life has been a little bit crazy because I think when you go back to school as an adult, you have to go to school and you have to work. So time has not been on my side, but I've been trying to build creativity into my routine. During lockdown, the COVID-19 lockdown of 2020, I bought a drawing course on Udemy. And so I sort of set aside time every so often to just get back in there. And I think it's so important to disconnect from all devices and all tech and just be there with a pencil and an eraser and a piece of paper and be fully immersed in it. The next thing that I want to do is start pottery. I That's been on my list for a very long time because I think understanding and appreciating that I am a structured, creative person took a very long time to land because I think that didn't seem like it existed when I was a child. A structured creative. I think creatives when I was younger were, I don't know, disheveled and people that like, I don't know, it just didn't have the same sort of look and feel to what I understand being creative is now. And I've learned that I need that outlet. So hopefully I will become better at drawing and then maybe I'll show some to some people.
When I think about cooking itself, it is a form of creativity. And do you believe that also cooking has that creative component, that at the end of the day, even something that you've maybe cooked many, many times before, that you can evolve and change, and that can actually bring a new twist to how people experience your dishes?
Definitely. That's how I started cooking when I was 18 and I enrolled in university and I was studying commerce and I was not connecting with finance and accounting and all of these things. I was cooking. And I think when you turn your passion into a paycheck, somewhere in the middle when the stakes were really high, I felt as though I didn't necessarily have a passion any longer. Like I grew up watching food TV shows, and now because I've made a TV show, I don't watch that many of them because I'm supposed to be relaxing and enjoying, and instead I'm kind of thinking how many cameras, how many angles, like what sort of frame rate did they shoot this in, and so these days when I relax, not to say that cooking is not relaxing and not creative, I don't know if I can always get out of work mode and be fully relaxed and present.
Do you envision possibly in the future maybe opening your own restaurant?
I have been asked this question so many times, and I In 2019, I started a dark kitchen, one of the first in South Africa. And the offering was macro weighted, dietitian approved, vegan everything, but you could add your protein, whether you wanted vegan protein or chicken or beef or whatever. And that was too early for South African market, and then COVID hit, and then the whole thing fell apart. But having that sort of taster, I knew prior to that that winning MasterChef South Africa, it's an amateur cooking competition, and it's the best home cooks. And a home cook or a content creator very rarely has the skill set that a chef that works in a brigade that can like time and run a restaurant. I don't think those two have as much crossover as people think that they do. So I don't want a restaurant at all, but I mean, I think what I can do with food and what I can offer with food is a bit more, I think it's more thought provoking around food versus actual execution at that standard.
If you had to imagine your legacy 20 years from now, what do you hope people remember of you?
That people think of me as the person that told them to stop and like really taste what was on that plate. And I think that's kind of what the world needs right now, a moment to pause, a reason to pause, because things are moving faster than they've ever moved before. And I think it's so easy to get lost and like crazy stress levels and burnout and families that fall apart, relationships that fall apart, people that fall apart. And I think we can combat all of that by just slowing down. Just pause for a minute, think about what you're putting on your plate, and enjoy that moment.
What would be one advice that you would give to someone that may be struggling right now to find their own path from a career perspective, from a purpose perspective? Can you share some of the methods that you've used to actually find the courage to pursue the path that really resonates deeply within your heart that maybe our listeners could implement as well?
But finding your purpose is sometimes a lifelong one foot in front of the other. I think it's about being honest with yourself. I've started to do a lot more visualization and answer questions about who do you want to be in the future and sort of get quite granular about it. You wake up, what's the air temperature? Do you have a dog? Do you go for a run? And then what do you do? Where do you go? And I think the question that you just asked, like, how do you want to be remembered, also goes into that. And then sort of figure out if that's where you're headed to, what steps do I need to take now to be able to get that life and get one step closer to the dream? Because I think once you have sort of quantified what it is that you want, it becomes easier to like strive for it instead of just doing right now without a goal.
Yes, and I absolutely love what you've just shared. I mean, purpose indeed is a lifelong journey. And even as we embark on a path, things may change, new ideas, new opportunities may emerge. And it's actually beautiful that life offers us all these emerging and evolving experiences that reshape who we are and what we even believe we can do ourselves. So, thank you for sharing that. How can people stay in touch with you and stay tuned to some of the upcoming new and exciting things that you'll be pursuing in the future?
Instagram is probably the best option. I am still finalizing my website and my offering for the next adventure. And that content should be coming through in the next few weeks. So it is literally a watch the space to see what's happening.
Wonderful. And do you have any final words of wisdom that you may wish to share with our audience, or a final challenge that you may wish to encourage our listeners to pursue in order to elevate their joy, their well-being, and how they navigate life's reality?
I think maybe the challenge is to truly listen to our inner voices. And so whether that is around what to cook for dinner or which direction you should be pursuing. I think if we have a moment of, I don't know, just like respectful solitude, we're able to hear our voices, and that would be the right way. Because I think these days there's such a lot of distraction. Your phone is always going, your laptop, it's like everything is all over the place. And with that, it means that our internal voice is kind of dulled and diminished. And so that whole like gut reaction gets overshadowed by the anxiety of, is this the right thing? Is whatever. But I think if we just still for a moment, we'll be able to figure it out, and it will be this like intuitive spark moment. So that's the challenge.
I love that. Kamini, it's been an immense pleasure to speak with you today and keep shining.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you in Cape Town next time.